Good morning, this is VirtualPBX admin training. Gonna have a slightly late start today, so I do apologize for that. Just making sure my connection is stable here. And let us Alright, we can go ahead and get started here. Sorry about that again. So on your page here, you should be seeing the dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get there from the virtualpbx.com website. Just mouse over support and you should see a link there for the dash login. To log into Dash, you do need your email address, password, which should have been emailed to you, and the account name, or typically the company name. Now, for some reason you don't have this information, or you probably not the password, you can click on the Forgot Your Info link here at the bottom right. And then we still need your email address. And then we need either the account name or a phone number on the account. So like one of your main company numbers. Click on Reset Password. You'll get an email with a link to reset your password. Once you reset the password, the system will then log you out of the system to make you log in with that new password. And then also gives you a chance to click on Remember Me. And then you would click on Sign In. It's taking a long time to load. Let's try getting out and logging back in. Let's try this again. Sorry about that. It doesn't normally hang up like that. Alright, so this is our dashboard page. Now, and again, it's loading very slowly. The first time you ever log into Dash, it actually doesn't take you to this page right away. It takes you to your account page, which I'll get to by clicking on my name up here at the top. And so here I can change my own email address for login purposes, my own password. I can change my time zone. I'm an admin, so I can go over here on the right and click on the account level, and I can change like the time zone for the entire account, right, to put the headquarters in the correct time zone. Now, on your accounts, you'll have an extra section here below user where you can see things like you can update your credit card information, you can see your service plan, you can update your billing contact information, as well as invoices. And also that first login, the wizard will pop up to give you highlights about the various sections that are here. Once you're done, you go ahead and click on close, and that will take you back here to the dashboard page. Now on the top, so I have my name where I could click on to get to my account name. There's a little question mark icon. So then I can open the chat window to speak to our support team. I can click on the learn more, and that will go to the support pages. The online store, that goes to store.virtualpbx.com, so I could order things like a VoIP phone. And then there's also a link for the web phone. Now that will only show up once you've added a web phone to the user, and usually it's a few minutes after you have to log out and log back in, but you have to wait a few minutes before you log back in for it to populate properly. Then we've got a 3 horizontal line icon, which is our menu icon. And these are some of the extra features on Dash. Right now we're on the dashboard, but we have things like Acd Cues, Blacklists, etc. And then we have the logout icon at the far right. Now here in the center, we got our total users. So these are the people on my account who are making and receiving calls. Adding users can increase your bill depending on your plan, right? So if you're on a per user plan, adding a user will increase your bill. So that's something to be aware of. Next up, we have my total devices, which I have 37, and then a breakdown of those devices, right? So I've got, looks like 15 cell phones. That's pretty self-explanatory. I have 11 web phones. The web phones, they're kind of soft phone. They make use of, you can use Chrome or Firefox on a desktop or laptop computer to use your internet connection to make and receive calls. And then we have soft phones. Again, software application uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. This can be software. So like you can get a program from a company called Counterpath. They have several different soft phone apps, for instance, that you could add on to your account. This could also be for a physical VoIP phone that didn't show up in our auto provision list. You could use a soft phone credentials to program that device. Landline, pretty self-explanatory. And then we have the SIP phone. This is the physical VoIP phone, so it sits on your desk or someone's desk. It could be like a base station with a cordless handset. And these are auto-provisioned phones or fully supported devices. Down here, you see I have 14 unregistered devices. Basically, that's the system letting you know 14 of your VoIP devices are not connected, so we cannot send calls to them or receive calls from them. That could be something as simple as someone didn't plug their phone in, or they didn't log into their soft phone app, right? It could be more complicated, like someone swapped out routers and now they can't connect properly. Next up, we have total phone numbers, 28. Our plans typically include anywhere from 2 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. So in this case, I'm well over 15. So I'm going to be paying extra for these extra phone numbers. Now that's going to depend on the plan that you're on. That's anywhere from $1.99 per month per phone number up to, I believe it's $4.99 per month per phone number. If you have a lot of phone numbers and you want clarification on what you might be being charged, you're gonna want to talk to our account services team. They can verify the pricing that you have for your extra phone numbers. And then we have a breakdown here. So first we've got assigned numbers and spare numbers. An assigned number means I'm using it, right? It's going to be one of these main numbers over here, for example. Or it's going to be a number that goes directly to one of my users, a number to my groups, or Acd Cues, etc. Right? A spare number means it's a number on my account, so it counts towards my allotment, but I'm not currently using it, right? For whatever reason, whether it was a promotion that ended and I still want to keep that number for a later promotion, or I got a block of numbers in sequence and I just haven't gotten to the last numbers in those sequence. All right, then we have the breakdown here of USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? So 800 numbers, 888 all the way down to 833 currently. USDID, it's just a US local phone number. So you can have a phone number, say in Saratoga, California, and you can have a number in Saratoga, New York. That's what you wanted to do. Or just have numbers in your various locations that you are doing business in. Conference bridges, I have 5. That means I've enabled conferencing on 5 of my users. And these are the people who host the conferences on your account. Then we have our main numbers. I have 5 here. These numbers all behave in the same fashion initially, meaning they route to the same location. They all have the same main greeting play when you dial them. Then we've got our conference numbers, or in this case, not singular number, but you can have multiple conference numbers if you want. Again, this is the phone number everyone dials into to join a conference, whether they're the moderator or a participant, and whether they're in-house or outside of your organization. Then we got the fax box number, right? If you enable faxing, or putting a number here will enable faxing on the account in general, and this is your inbound fax number. Then we have the company directory. This download link downloads a text file, so you can see the usernames and extensions of everyone on the account. The softphone directory here, this download link is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop softphone application. So you download this file and then you upload it to your softphone. And what it does is for all your softphone users, you can see their status, right? See their presence, like whether if they're on a call or if they're just available to receive a call. Then we've got your store discount code. So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount in our store. And then you got the account realm. This is used in a couple things. One, it's used in programming third-party soft phones or third-party VoIP devices. It's one of the 3 key pieces of information you need. It's also used for faxing out. So on Dash currently, to send a fax out, it's via email, right? So you create an email from the email address of your user. In the to field of that email, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, the @ symbol, and then your account realm. After that, you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file to your email, and you click send, right? So the system gets the email, it looks at the to field, it says, okay, I'm faxing to the to number, right? The +1 area code and phone number, and I'm like, that's my destination. Looks at the realm, this is where I'm faxing from. Then it grabs the attachment and says, this is the document I have to convert into analog signal to send out via fax. So you don't need to type in the body of the email or even in the subject line of the email. And you just want to make sure you're sending out 1 attachment per fax attempt. And that would mean you also, if you want to have a fax cover sheet, you would need to include that as part of your PDF document, for example. All right, up here, we've got your caller ID. There we go. Now this pull down would normally show all your numbers, so you can choose any of your main numbers. And then you have the company caller ID name, or CNAME. This is 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. Once you click on Save Changes, this is transmitted out to the other carriers who support CNAME. It takes about 3 business days for all of them to get updated properly. And then so when you make an outbound call from your VoIP phones, this is the information we transmit out, right? By default, we would transmit this phone number and the CNAME information out, and hopefully that gets to your destination. Now, all we can do is update this information and send it out, right? When you make an outbound call, your call can route through several different carriers. It is possible your call could route through a carrier that doesn't support CNAME. That's usually smaller regional carriers, right? All the big name carriers that you've probably heard of, they support CNAME. And then ultimately, it's the device, if it has a display that can display all the information, would be a critical factor in it. But also, it's that network that device is associated with. That carrier determines what shows up on their phone's displays. And then just another caveat, when you make outbound calls to a cell phone, right? Cell phone carriers may not show CNAME information unless the person has opted to pay for it. Like, so I'm on AT&T, I can pay like $10 a month and I can have CNAME information show up for every call. I personally don't feel that's worthwhile, so I don't pay it. I'm guessing that's pretty common for a lot of people. So that's something to be aware of when you make test calls out to cell phones. All right, next up we have the company emergency information, or E911. And you just want to put address information associated with this phone number. So that way when people pick up their VoIP phones, they dial 911. This is the information that gets transmitted to emergency services. Each of your phone numbers can have their own E911 address, and then you can assign your VoIP phones to a specific phone number for E911 purposes. So that way you can have people have the right addresses. And then any changes here, you want to click on Save Changes. Still loading, and you notice I lost a little red banner there now because I updated my E911. Next up, we've got hold music. So hold music on Dash is defined as after a call has come into a user and then they've pressed hold on their VoIP phone. That's when this particular file will play. You can upload your own files, right? So in Dash, you can upload .wav, .mp3, and .ogg media files. You want to make sure they're recorded in mono, not in stereo, and that they're under 1 megabyte in size. All right, so you would browse your computer to find the file. You would click open, right, and then you would click this little upload icon to upload the file. I prefer not to use that as hold music, but then you would click on Save Changes once it's uploaded. All right, hours is actually part of main number, so we'll just go to main number and go down that in order. The main number page does take a while to load, so that's something to be aware of. All right, so first up, we got your main company numbers. When you click on, these are all my main numbers. Now, if I decide I don't want to use one of these as a main number anymore, whether because I want to get rid of it or I want to use it for something else, you first need to unassign the number. So I can like get rid of this 855 number here. And so now I have one less main number. Now it's still on my account, right? I just moved it to a spare number. but then I can move it to something else if I am so inclined. Anywhere you can add a phone number, so on a user or group, etc., you have your choice of adding from spare numbers. Right, so I have these 3 numbers I can add back in as a main number, or I can buy new numbers. Right, toll free, that's 800, 888, etc. You choose the prefix you want to use, you click search, and then you'll get a list of available numbers. You can pick one you like, and then you see I've added one in this in my cart, and here's the number. I can delete it if I change my mind, and you can add multiple numbers at the same time if you're so inclined. Oops. Once you've decided that, okay, I want to buy this number, you just click on buy numbers, and now it's verifying that the number was still available, and then adding it to your account and making sure it's active. All right, and for local numbers, you have to search by area code. So like I could do 656. I'm not sure if that's actually a valid area code off the top of my head. Probably not. Now there will be some times that there will be area codes you search for that there's nothing available, and that could be simply because that area code is exhausted. Right, so 703, I'm actually surprised there are numbers available. No, typically these seem to be hard to get, but again, you just click add and then buy the numbers. Now let's say you signed up for an account and you didn't add any numbers when you signed up. You would still click on buy numbers to add it to the account. You're not going to be charged additionally, right? That's just how the system language to add a number to the account. And then, so like if you're under your allotment and you buy like 10 numbers and suddenly you're over, it's on that next invoice that would be reflected. All right, so next to any of these numbers, you see this little gear icon. So this is where you can adjust the caller ID. Right, so I can adjust the outbound CNAM information. I can turn on inbound, accepting inbound CNAM as well. E911, now I can set up the E911 address for this phone number, and then click add. If you ever encounter an error on the E911, I recommend just verifying the address via Google Maps. And if like Google has like a different direction or spells out the direction versus just the abbreviation, to try the Google Maps version to see if that would go through. Next up, we have Prepend. This is a VoIP feature. This allows you to put extra text in front of the caller ID information that shows up on your VoIP phone user's display, or the VoIP phone's display. So you simply just type in some text, and then you would click on Save Changes. So you could put in things like promo or like the city name, especially if you've added a new location. Messaging, this turns on business SMS capabilities for this phone number. For main numbers, to make use of business SMS, you do need to have, your account has to have either Zapier integration or webhooks, because that's what you have to link that up to properly make use of texting on the main numbers. And then we have the office hours strategy. So to start, every company or every new account starts off at 24-hour open office, meaning your system's ready to take calls. You just need to get it set up properly, right? So your numbers won't ring busy. A lot of customers go to custom office hours. For each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark in front of the day, and then you put your open hours here in these boxes in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option here at the bottom, which I don't know if it shows up on YouTube, but there's an option to say if you're closed for lunch. So if your whole facility closes for lunch, put a check mark, and then you enter in your lunch hours. again in that 24-hour or military time format. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, you put a check mark here. And then to the right, under add holiday, you've got 3 options. You've got single day, date range, and advanced. All right, so single day, we have like here President's Day. You can just give it a name. You put the month and you put the date. Right, and then you would click on Save Changes. For date range, like we have here for Christmas, it's, again, put the start date and the end date. Notice that there's no year indicator. So you want to avoid having a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, right? And you see here that we have separate ones here for New Year's Day and New Year's Eve to avoid that particular scenario. And then for advanced, that's like this option here for retreat, right? So you give it a name, and then I'm saying, hey, the first Friday in July, we're closed, we're on holiday, right? Company picnic day. Now, the first pull down's the month, all the months. This second pull down, it's 1st through 5th as well as last are your options. And then the day of the week. And then any changes, you would just click on Save Changes. All right, next up, we have incoming call handling. All right, so this is for my main numbers, right? These 5, 6 numbers. And then you notice I have these tabs across the top. I have open hours, I have my lunch hours, I have my after hours, and my holidays. Now, if I didn't have custom office hours, right? I was just open 24/7, I would only have the open hours tab. Right, unless I said, oh wait, I'm closed for holidays, then I would have the open and holiday, etc. So these tabs will change depending on your settings. And then we have these, in this case, 4 options. You have 3 or 4 options typically depending on your account setup. So the first one here is the call comes in and it's going to the virtual receptionist. This is a link. There we go. And this is how you set up your virtual, or where you set up your virtual receptionist. So on the left here, we have our main menu. This is where you enter or create the menu, right? So like what people press on their phone to navigate through your phone system. Right, you would just click on Add Route. This pull down, unfortunately not working. You have 0 through 9 as well as star, and then this default route to choose from, and then this pull down is where you want it to go. So like if I go to this one here, right, Smart Directory, that's just the user directory, right? I can send it to a specific user, right? So a specific person. I can send it to a call queue. I can send it to a specific device. The one caveat about sending it to a specific device is you want to make sure that device has some kind of voicemail capability, because if no one picks up, the call will just end. It doesn't route it back to anything else, like the user voicemail. You can select a media file, right? So like hours of operation or directions. But again, once that media file stops playing, the call ends. So not always recommended. There are a lot of media files on this account. Then we've got groups. These are ring groups or departments. And then I have advanced call flows because I have multiple attendants. So this would be for use of submenuing. So like if your main greeting is, press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, you can make 1 and 2 their own menu. So they'd have their own options, like the main menu, pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'd have its own main greeting. So you would have an English greeting for the menu option 1, a Spanish greeting for menu option 2, and then those calls would route to either English speaking or Spanish speaking staff members. And then you can also send it to a person's voicemail box. Now over here we have your text-to-speech greetings or your greeting options. First, the text-to-speech, right? So you type in what you want it to say. You would click update, Save and save changes. Now, a couple things to keep in mind about the text-to-speech greeting. First and foremost, you have a character limit of about 250 to 350 characters, right? So each letter, right? So that includes spaces and or special characters you may use. Additionally, every time you click update, it saves the file and it gives it the same file name, right? So main open hour menu TTS. That's what it will call this file if I click update. Right? So like even if I come in here, it's not letting me select it, but if I just changed, like added another sentence, I click update, it would be the same file name that's already being used. So what I recommend for most people is when you create a text-to-speech greeting, after you're done here, you're going to want to go over to the greetings manager, which we'll be getting to, find that file, and then rename it to something that's more recognizable to you. So that way, if you need to go back to it or change something later, you still have it available to you. Right, you can upload your own file, .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Again, you would just choose the file. All right, click open, and then you would click update to upload the file. Choose from existing recordings. This pull down will show all your available recordings, and then you would click update. And again, you see here, I have that main open hours TTS. Right, I don't know what version of it is, unfortunately, so probably not something I want to select at this time. Recorded over the phone. Now, this first line here, right, it says pick up a phone registered in this account. What this means is the system is saying pick up a VoIP phone on your account, and then dial your main number, and then enter this PIN number. Now, if you don't have a greeting in place, the system will tell you that you don't have a recording for this menu, and then it would prompt you to enter the PIN number so you can record it over the phone. If you have a greeting already in place, right, when you hear that main greeting play, you can enter this PIN number and the system will prompt you through recording it over the phone. But when you record over, like, so when greeting file A is currently playing and I dial in, I hit 0907, I record a new greeting, right? The file name greeting file A, or file greeting A, whatever, greeting A, that name stays the same, but I overwrote the content of it completely, right? Now that's great if I'm making a permanent change to my greeting, then I don't care. But if, for instance, I'm coming up on a major promotion, say for Memorial Day here in the US, in the greeting A that I play, that's my normal greeting for non-holiday times or non-promotional times. I would want to change my greeting that's currently playing temporarily while I go in to call in. Then I enter in this PIN number and I overwrite greeting B with the promo greeting, right? So that way that's in place for Memorial Day. Once that ends, then I can go back to greeting A that's still intact and put it back in place under the choose from existing recordings. All right, professional recording services. When you click order, this will take you to a new website hosted by Snap Recordings. They have 80 to 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They have various versions of English, Spanish, and French. They have bilingual or multilingual packages as well. And they also have hold treatment, right? So a music file and then a script being read. They handle their own billing. They deliver typically via email. And then you would simply upload the file under upload your own file. Okay, settings. Number of retries on missed dial. This basically is telling how many times the inbound person can make a mistake. Right, so I call in and I press number 7. Oops, that's not a valid option. The system says, okay, you get another retry. Right, because I have one listed here. So the greeting will play again, and then I can hopefully hit my correct menu option. The dialing timeout, this is measured in seconds, essentially. basically after the system hears a button press, right? So I press 2. The system is going to wait a count of 10 and go, oh, you're done, and then send me to this menu option, which looks like it's going to an advanced call flow. So different auto attendant. All right, allow outside recording. If this is off, that means you can only record your main greeting with a VoIP phone. Right? If you turn this on, now you can record it over the phone with a cell phone or landline. Right? Allow dialing extensions. If this is off, that means when people get to this menu, they can only press these menu options. They can't get to an extension number if they know it. Right? If you turn it on, then if they know the extension of the person they're reaching, they can just enter it and move on. And this last one here, suppress playing of invalid entry. When this is off, that means if someone, so if I press 7, the system will tell me that's an invalid entry, and then it would play the main greeting again. And if I did that again, it would say invalid entry, and either send me to the default route, or if I don't have a default route, so if I get rid of this, then it would just end the call. Right now, if I turn this on, I'm not going to get that message saying you had an invalid entry. So if I press 7, it would just start replaying the greeting again. Any changes you make to the main menu, the greetings, or these settings, you need to click Save here. And then you want to click Save Changes here under Incoming Call Handling. All right, next option. All right, calls come here. I'm offering it to Mike. If Mike can't answer, then it goes to the virtual receptionist. This is referred to as the live operator option, right? So this gives a staff member, or if I send this to a group, for instance, let's go all the way down here. So I can send it to, let's say, this 2020 ring group. Right. So now I'm offering it to a group of staff members for 20 seconds. If they don't pick up, then the caller goes to their virtual receptionist. And since I'm under open hours, it's going to match that virtual receptionist we were just looking at. Right. Say menu options, etc. But again, the point is you're giving a staff member or multiple staff members a chance to answer the call first. Right. Third option. Call comes in, again, we're offering it to Mike. If he doesn't answer, it goes to Mike's voicemail. Now, this has the same pull down options as the second option here, right? You can send it to users, groups, media file. You can send it to specific device. If we scroll down, we got the advanced call flows, and then there's one additional option. In this case, that's skip to voicemail. So basically, you're just saying, hey, call, come in, send it straight to voicemail. So that could be for a seasonal business, right? Or if you're on your holidays, kind of thing. One thing I want to point out back on the second one, right? You do have the option to send it to a media file. I recommend against that. Just because that can be confusing to your inbound caller, right? Because basically they'll come in, they'll hear a greeting play, then they'll get to your virtual receptionist where they'll hear another greeting play, and that can throw people off. All right. This last option here, this only shows up if you're making use of additional auto attendants or if you have DISA enabled. Right, so this is just sending a call to one of your advanced call flows. It doesn't show up all that often. Now, for your lunch hours, right, you still have these various options. But like if I send it to a virtual receptionist, for example, I'm not saying the media file doesn't play, but I have my own directory here. Sure why it's not responding. But essentially each of these other tabs they can have their own setup, right? So you can have their own virtual receptionist, their own greetings, their own routes, right? And so like holiday, I always have it go skip to voicemail, for example. Right, main conference number. So if you want to have conferencing on your account, you first need to add a conference number. You can have multiple conference numbers if you're so inclined, right? So you can add from spare. Or you can also buy new. You can also set up a custom greeting. Now this is a text-to-speech greeting. You just click enable and type in what you want it to say, and then you would click on save. Even if you don't have this enabled, when you call into the conference number, it says welcome to the conference, and then prompts you to enter the conference room number and then the PIN number. For your fax box, you're allowed one phone number to the account, and then once you've done so, you would edit fax box. Now on this account, the main fax box is broken, unfortunately, but on your account, when you click edit fax box, you'll have two fields pop open. The first is for the inbound notification. Basically, you put an email address. When a fax comes into this phone number, that email address gets a notification and a PDF attachment. Now, if someone dials that number, hears fax tones, and hangs up, that fax email notification address will also get an email saying there was a failed inbound fax attempt. So that's one thing to be aware of. The second field in the edit fax box is for outbound permissions. So you can put an email address there, or you can put your company domain there. That means anyone at your company, right, that has the same email address that ends up, say, at virtualpbx.com, for example, right, then anyone at VirtualPBX can send a fax out as long as they have the proper format. They don't have to be a user on my account. Right, that proper format, again, on the email, in the to field, the plus sign, the number 1, then the area code and phone number you're faxing to, @ account realm, and then attach a PDF. All right, auto attendants. So this is for multiple auto attendants. This is available on many plans, but not every plan. So if this ends up being something you're interested in, you're going to want to talk to our account services team. They can verify for you for sure if it's on your plan or not, although normally you would have this auto attendant menu option. And then if it's not on your current plan, then they can basically guide you through what's the best plan to upgrade to add that without increasing your bill too much. The two main use cases for multiple auto attendants. The first, and I would think most common, is for you have multiple businesses that you're running, right? They have their own phone numbers, their own main greetings, but you have the same staff handling calls for both businesses or 3 businesses or whatever, how many businesses you have. Right, so like you have a dog walking business, a notary service, and a cleaning service, right? They would all have different phone numbers. They definitely have different main greetings, but you can have the same staff members answering calls for them. The other purpose I mentioned previously, which was the submenuing, right? So like you have the one for English, 2 for Spanish, right? Then you would create these additional attendants for your menus for the English and the Spanish. All right. So first, you would click on Add Attendant. You would give it a name and then an extension number, and then you simply click on Create Extension. Once an attendant is created, you can click on the name. And you notice this one here, Jade, is unavailable in main menu. What that means is this is a standalone attendant, right? So not intended to be a sub-menu option. And that's consistent with it having its own phone number, right? And again, any attendant, you can add add from spare, buy new numbers, right? You can always add additional extensions to an attendant. Now, the extension is typically for your staff members, right? They could literally transfer calls to a different attendant just based off the extension number. And then if you click on the little gear icon here, or the wrench icon, excuse me, then you can see I have open hours, lunch hours, after hours, and holidays. Right, this will these times match your main number settings. So if I wanted this business to be open 7 days a week, but under my main number I only said I'm open 5 days a week, that would be a problem. You would either have to do a custom setup or custom build, which you would need to talk to our account services team. They would need to get the full scope of what you're trying to do, and then talk to our product team to see what that would entail. There would usually be a one-time setup fee for that, or just have a separate account for the 7-day-a-week business versus the 5-day-a-week business. Now, all of these options all just go to the virtual receptionist, right? And they have their own virtual receptionist, right? So each one will have their own menu, their own greeting options, and their own settings, right? But this is exactly what we were just looking at under the incoming call handling. So any changes, you would click on Save Here, and then Save Changes here. Now if we look at J2 here, you'll see that now this one is available in main menu. So this means that J2 is available as a sub-menu option, right? So it's not necessarily a standalone business. It's just probably a set of menu options or a further subset of menu options to give customers more choices. That's pretty much auto attendance in a nutshell. Devices. This shows all your devices on the account. Green means it's connected, meaning we can send a call to that device and get calls from it. Red means it is not connected, right, or not registered. Black means you've turned it off. Now you can add devices on this page. First up is SIP phone, and this is that physical VoIP phone. It sits on a desk, most likely, or a wall. These are the manufacturers that support the auto provisioning process. Not every model of their phones are going to be on here. Right, so you want to take a look at the list here and find the model that you're looking for. Now, if you have a model that's in between, so like say if you have, for whatever reason, you have a T44, there's nothing that matches that exactly, you could try either the T43 or the T46 to see if that would work. There's no guarantee on that, right? But again, each manufacturer has a different model mix that is available. For the Polycom phones, especially these older ones, you need to make sure you're on version 4 of the firmware. Version 3 will not work. Right, Bubble High, you see we have a smaller selection. Same with H-Tech. Grand Stream. And then we have Cisco. So once you find the model of phone that you have or you want to use, right, you would click on that phone. You give it a device name, right, like Bob's phone, and then you enter the MAC address. MAC address is unique to each phone. Often it's a sticker on the back of the phone, or if you have the phone connected, usually under menu status, you can find the MAC information, and then you would enter that here. You would click on create device, and then you would go to a user and assign it to a user. Now, once the device is added on your dashboard, you're done as far as the dashboard is concerned. However, on the phone, you need to access the phone's web user interface and at least enter in a URL. Basically tell the phone, go here to get your config file. For the specifics of that, you want to go to the Dash support pages, and on the right hand side under VoIP phones, you want to look for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones. It will have screenshots as well as telling you what settings to verify and that URL that you're looking for. Follow those instructions. It will tell your phone will then reboot a couple times typically, and then it will show up as a green device, so ready to be used. Cell phone, landline are essentially the same. They're just different labels. But you would give it a name, and then you put +1 area code and phone number, and click on Create Device. Now, when Dash, I think I clicked too much there. When Dash offers a call to a cell phone or landline, right, the device will ring, you'll pick up. You'll hear the system say, "This is a forwarded call, please press 1." Right? When you press 1, you tell the system, yes, you're there, yes, you want to take this call. Now, that doesn't work for everyone or every situation, right? So for instance, we have some customers who are actually using like a cell phone, for example, to send calls to an automated answering service or like another auto attendant of some sort. In that case, that automated answering service can't press 1 to accept the call, right? It just doesn't know when to do so. So in that situation on that device, right, so we're under advanced and then options, you want to click on the box here where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, and then click on save changes. So now when we send a call to this device, right, the phone will ring, we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call, right? So if it's going to an automated answering service, that's perfect, because then the automated answer service then takes over, plays us message, what have you. Now, if this is actually Mike's cell phone, for example, and I leave the setting as it is, if his cell phone voicemail picks up, we'll still treat that like a connected call. So that means the caller ends up on his personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people love this as an option. Other people said, no, I want my business calls to go to the Dash voicemail box. So that's something to be aware of. The other thing to keep in mind is the second option here, the keep original caller ID. So customer Mary is calling into the system, reaches out to your user. On your cell phone, you see customer Mary's phone number show up on your caller ID. And you're like, I don't know this number, and I've had too many calls asking about talking about my extended auto warranty, so you let the call to go to voicemail. Maybe you're able to reconnect with customer Mary and able to complete the sale, or maybe customer Mary has since moved on. So what you can do here is uncheck this, right? And so now when the call comes to you, it's not going to show customer Mary's phone number. It's instead going to go back to your main number that we set up under the company caller ID. Right, so the caller ID icon at the top, it's a 702 phone number that would show up. Okay, soft phone. First, you got this little message basically about wireless VoIP technology, meaning you might not be at the location of the E911 address that you set up. So you may not want to call 911 from your soft phone application if you're out and about. And then here we have, you want to give a device name, the SIP username. You'd want to copy and paste that. If you click on the box for the SIP password, you'd want to copy and paste that. And then copy and paste your account realm. You'd use these 3 pieces of information to program your third-party soft phone or VoIP device. Right, now, bear in mind you don't want to change any of this information, even though you can. Like I've had people change their SIP username to just their name, and it won't work. Right, the system won't recognize that. But then you would click on Create Device. Landline, just like cell phone. And the web phone, you can add the web phone here, but it's better to add the web phone directly to the users. So I'll cover that there. Let's go over to the Greetings Manager. All right, here you can see all your greetings on the account. Right, you have got their name. The source recording means you recorded over the phone. Upload, you uploaded the file. And then TTS means you did a text-to-speech greeting. And you'll see down here, also, yeah, at the very bottom, that's the main open hours TTS. I have probably very many of those. You can add a greeting up here at the top. Right, just give it a name, find the file, click on Create Greeting. It will then upload the file for you. This is a download link, so you can download a file and listen to it to see if it's still relevant or if you still want to make use of it. And then here, the little wrench icon, when you click on it, this is where you change the name of a greeting, or when you realize, hey, I don't need this greeting anymore, I can just delete it. And that's probably something I need to do on this account with 65 greetings. All right, groups, shorthand for ring groups. These are departments. Click on Add Group to create a new group. Right, you give it a name and an extension number, and then you would click and drag the people that you want to be in this group, and then you would click on Create Group. Once a group's created, you can click on the name of the group. You can always change the name. And then you have the dialing group call attempts. Right, basically the number of times the inbound caller can ring through to your staff members. You have little up and down arrow icons here to the far right, so you can increase or decrease that as you see fit. Right. And then you would click on Save Changes. When you click on the members box, right, so here are all my staff members who are in this group. When calls come in, they're ringing in this order right now. So it's ringing into Angelica, then Jan, then Michael. Oh, it looks like I have a deleted user, so we can remove that person. Now I have a little skip here, which is not good. In a ring group, you don't want a gap between users. The system basically treats it like it's ran through its course, and then it would start over for the next call attempt or go to next action. So in this case, I would click Distribute again, and that will equalize the calling times. And now I have that stepped or that complete calling time. Notice across the top here, these are your ringing times in seconds. This last one here, that's your total ring time for the group. You can adjust this, right? You can make it like 600 seconds, or you can make it 60 seconds, what have you. You can add additional users down here at the bottom. You can also remove users, as you saw me do for that deleted user. Now, if for some reason I want to change the order, let's say Angelica has a special project I want her to work on, I can click and drag her further down to the bottom, right? I can move myself up, do something like that. Now, I haven't actually changed the call order, right? Because Angelica is still starting at 0. But then I can click Distribute again, and now she's at the end. Now, these are all sliders. So you can do something like this. Right, basically, I'm setting up what's called blast ringing or ring all. Maybe it will let me. Right, so this is a ring all situation. A couple things to keep in mind with groups. Users in your groups, they're always in the group, right? They can't log themselves in or out. They can't mark themselves away. and it's going to ring all their devices at the same time, right? So if I have my cell phone, a VoIP phone, and let's say a web phone, right? Call comes into me to a group, all three of them are going to ring at the same time until I answer the call. Likewise, if I'm on a call and a second call comes into the group, I'm going to hear a call waiting beep in my ear. A customer won't, until one of my coworkers picks up that call. Right. Groups can have multiple extensions or just a single extension. Again, this is so your staff members can transfer calls to that group. Right, you can add multiple extension numbers. Groups can have their own phone number. Right, so you can add from spare by numbers. Likewise, now the downside of a group having its own phone number is that this will not follow your open hours. Right, so if your staff members are using their personal cell phones, for example, and then someone calls the group phone number at 2 in the morning, their cell phone will ring at 2 in the morning. So the way around that is not have a phone number for the group and either make use of a second auto attendant for a phone number specific to a group, and then you make the group the default option on the auto attendant's receptionist there, or you just make it a menu option off of your virtual receptionist to begin with. All right, then we've got group features. First is ring back. This is essentially hold music that plays until one of your staff member picks up. So first you would click enable, and then you would upload a .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. The main thing to remember about this file that you use is that its duration should match the ring duration of your group, right? That 120-second default, because the system will not loop the file for you. And then you would click on Save Changes. Next action. When you enable this, basically you're telling the system what to do if no one answers the call, right? So all my group people weren't able to answer the call, or they were all already on calls, right? You have a pull down here. Right, default for me is to send it to voicemail, but you can set it back to your open hours, right? Your main virtual receptionist. You can send it to one of your other auto attendants. You can send it to a call queue. You can send it to a specific device. You can send it to a specific user, right? You can send it to another ring group. And then that should be or a voicemail box. Allow call forward. If you enable this, you're letting your users make use of call forwarding, meaning they're not at their normal desk phone, but they still want to be able to take the group calls. And then caller ID prepend. If you enable this is again for your VoIP phone users. They can get additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID on their VoIP phone's display. All right, this is helpful for when you have people in multiple groups or queues, etc., so that way they have an idea of what the call is about that they're about to answer. All right, numbers. Maybe. All right. This will show all the numbers on your account and where they're ringing to. All right, you have your icon here, so you can adjust the things like the caller ID, the E91, and the prepend, etc. Your spare numbers, these are the numbers you're not using on the account. If you want to remove a number, right, save money on your bill, what you want to do is click on the box in front of the number. And now you see I have this option here to delete. So I can delete these two, confirm the deletion. And now I've removed these numbers from my account, so I've saved a little money on my bill. Likewise, I can buy numbers here, right? Local or toll-free, same process, but instead it just adds them as a spare number. Port. This starts the port process. You would just click on new port request, you give it a name, and say US local or toll free. Click next. Then you need to upload a PDF. At this point, the system's asking you to upload a copy of your phone bill and ask you for the phone numbers you want to port, the address associated with these phone numbers. It will then give you the opportunity to download a blank letter of agency, or LOA. You need to fill that out with what the current carrier has on file for those phone numbers, right? So if you're porting from AT&T to VirtualPBX, then you need to have what AT&T has on file as the company name or the person's name, the address, and then we need the authorized person's name, and then their signature. It's either a physical signature or a digital signature. Either way works. Just please don't type the name in twice, because that will get rejected automatically. It gives you some other steps of boxes to check, basically to make sure you understand a couple things about the porting process. You submit those documents. You should, after you submit, it should show completed. You should get an email letting you know that the submission went through. By the next business day, you should get a second email from our porting team letting you know, again, some things about the porting process. And once you get that second email from the porting team, that means the port request has been fully submitted and we're now waiting for a response from the other carrier. If for some reason you don't think the submission went through, or you saw that the upload failed, or what have you, you can email your documents to porting@virtualpbx.com, right? So porting@virtualpbx.com. With those documents, they can still submit the port request that way, right? You don't have to do it through this portal. Let's see what else. Oh, for toll-free numbers, it's typically about 3 to 5 business days for a port to complete if everything's correct. Local numbers can vary from 1 day to 3 weeks. The 1 day, typically these days, from what I've seen, is been like a Google Voice number that's already been unlocked. But the typical average is in that 2 to 3 week range. Excuse me. Let's go over to users. So here you can see all the users on the account. The little gray person, that's your standard user. Person with the blue suit, they are an admin, right? So they can do all these functions that we're talking about today. Adding a user. You click on add user. Right, you put in their first and last name. The email address used for login, right? That needs to be unique for each user. You create the password for them, and then you assign them an extension number. You can make this an extension number whatever you want, right? The system is suggesting 1022 because I started this account with extension 1000. So it's in the next available in that series is this. Now, then we have these options down here. Create a voicemail box for the user. This voicemail box would be intrinsically tied to the user. So let's say I create the user, I add a VoIP phone to that user. They can pick up the VoIP phone at that point, hit *98 on the phone, and that will log them in directly into this voicemail box that was just created for them. They can then create their PIN number for their voicemail box, as well as then create their voicemail greeting. Include in the user directory. Right, you can always change your mind later. The send email to an alternate address. So this would be instead of the email address used for login. Right, so the email address used for login by default, that's where we would send the password reset, for example, or any voicemail notifications. If you don't want to use this email address for that, that's when you would use send to an alternate address. It will use it instead of the login email. And then to me, the most important one, send credentials to the user, right? So they have their email address and their password especially. Then you would click on create user if you're only adding one person. Otherwise, you can click create user and add another to do the same process for more people. All right, once you've added a user, you can click on their name. You can change their name. You can change their credentials. Right, so I can change the email address. I can change their password. You can also just send the password reset email directly to the user. You've got the voicemail box pin. Again, VoIP phone users, they can log in automatically into their voicemail boxes, and you don't need to create a PIN number because they can do that themselves by doing that *98. For your cell phone and landline users, you do need to create a PIN number for them so they can log in over the phone. Here's the option to send to an alternate address, and here's the option to include in the company directory. This is a pull down where you can make an admin to a user or user into an admin. And then next up we have the account time zone. Do a search so that way you can assign the time zone correctly for the user. Then we've got the display language, which is English, French, German, or Russian. And that's just how the dashboard website displays to the user. Ringing timeout by default is 20 seconds. That's plenty of time for calls to get to a landline or most VoIP phones. Your cell phone, if it's just a cell phone user, you'd want to increase this to 45 seconds or 60 seconds. In terms of how PBX systems works, calls come in and then we offer it out to the devices. So when call comes in and we're offering it to a landline company or landline phone, the landline telecom goes, oh, we know where that is, just send the call right to them. Whereas when we send a call to a cell phone, the cell phone provider says, hold up, we need to find them first, pings the cell phone towers, found them, then the call goes through. And it's that delay in terms of a PBX why you would need a longer ring time for calls to a cell phone versus landline. All right. Now, users can have multiple extensions if you want them to. You would just click add an extension and you can add an additional extension number. Users can also have their own phone numbers. You can add from spare. As well as buy new numbers. Also here, you do have that little gear icon, so you can update the caller ID and the E911, etc. for this phone number. Under devices, you can add from spared devices or you can add new. You have that same options for SIP phone, cell phone, soft phone, etc. Web phone, you still get that warning for the wireless technology. Even though on the web phone, you can only use it on Chrome or Firefox, not a desktop or laptop computer, But it's that laptop computer that you can move around in. But you would just give it a device name. So like in this case, Aaron's web phone. And then you would click on Create Device. And then you would click on Save Changes. At that point, Aaron can go to webphone.virtualpbx.net. He can then use his dash login information to log into the web phone page. And then he can start making and receiving calls via Chrome or Firefox. The other, at least it should be a difference here. We'll just double check. So what should happen when you add a soft phone on a user is you should have an option to either add it as a third party by default, or right down here at the bottom, it says use third party application. If you click on that, you flip it to say use VirtualPBX application. You just give it a device name, you click on create device, and then you click on save changes. Then Angelica is going to get an email saying, hey, your soft phone is ready for use. Here's your username, here's your password, and they can download the app to their iPhone or Android phone, or if they're using the desktop, get the downloads for the Mac or Windows versions, and then they can make use of the soft phone. User features. I almost skipped that. All right. Caller ID number. this only comes into play with users with their own phone number. Essentially what you're saying is when you enable it is when Aaron makes an outbound call, his caller ID is going to be his personal phone number versus the account default. All right, so I turn it on, so now his outbound caller ID is his personal phone number versus the number on the dashboard caller ID. Call forwarding. You have off, on, or failover mode. Right? Off means you're not using it. On means you are. Failover is for VoIP phone users. Now, in terms of turning it on, your users can do this themselves via the user portal. Right? You can do it for them, obviously, because you're an admin. But then you would select, is it a desk phone or a mobile phone? Then you put +1 area code and phone number, and then you would click on Save Changes. Right? So that means calls to the user are automatically going to this device. The main thing is you want to make sure this device isn't already a device on the user, right? Because if it's already on the user, then you don't need to call forward. It's just eventually going to get to that device anyway. Failover mode is if when the system detects that a VoIP phone becomes unregistered and a call comes to that user, it will automatically forward to the number you input here. That way then the user can still answer the call and then go back and try to find out why their VoIP phone is not working properly. Hot desking is a VoIP feature. When you enable it, you create a hot desk ID. So if you're using like 4-digit extensions, I just say make it the person's extension number. That way they always remember it. But this is for use in a shared office environment where you might be sitting at a different desk from day to day. So on Tuesday, I'm sitting at desk number 7. I pick up the handset of the phone that's there. I hit *11. That turns on hot desking. It asks me for my hot desk ID. Right? If the admin also included a password, then I need to enter the password, and it will then tell me that phones will now come to this phone, or calls to me will go to this phone. At the end of my day, I hit *12 to turn off hot desking. Right? The next time I come into the office, let's say that's Friday, someone's already at desk number 7. I'm going to go over and sit at desk 42. I sit down. Again, pick up the handset, hit *11, enter my hot desk ID and the PIN number, and then calls will come to me at that phone. Right, voicemail box, right? It was enabled when we created the user. Now, by default, this is actually a default setup here where the system's going to automatically email the user, and it's going to attach the voicemail to the message, right? So it's an attachment they can double click and listen to their voicemails. Now, voicemail boxes are limited to 100 messages. So if you have staff members who are not good about clearing out their voicemail boxes, then you want to select this one here, which is delete the message from the database after the email's been sent out, right? Because that means the user already has the voicemail in their email. Likely on their local system, they have more storage space than 100 messages, so they should be okay. If your account includes voicemail transcription, you can turn that on here. As far as I know, that's not available in every plan. You'd want to check with account services to verify if you need to change plans to get that activated. And then any changes, you would click on Save Changes. Fax Box. Users can have their own individual Fax Box if you want them to. You would just click Enabled, and you would want to add a spare number or buy a new number. You can do an extension. To me, you're relying on the person faxing to you, because we can do $3.99. Select extension. So what I'm saying here is, so the person who's faxing me has to enter, right, call the main phone number. When they hear their greeting, they enter $3.99, and then they hit send fax. Now, some fax machines, they can do that. That's not a big a deal, right? Sometimes that's a matter of they listen on the handset and then hit 399 and then hit send fax and then hang up the handset. Sometimes some fax machines, right, you can add pauses into the phone number, right? So they put the phone number like star or comma, that they can put in 399, send fax, not a big deal. However, not every fax machine can follow either of those in some cases. Also, electronic fax services like eFax, etc., they may not allow faxing to an extension, right? They may only let you fax to a phone number. So that's why I just say normally just add a phone number if you want to do that. Conference bridge. If you want to enable this on this user, first you have to have conference number on the account, which we've already done. Right? Then you would just enable conferencing on this user, and then you need to create a PIN number for them. And then you click on Save Changes. Now, this user can adjust their PIN number via the user portal. So that's something they can adjust later. All right, follow me. This is for users with multiple devices. All right, first you would enable it, and then you need to decide which phones you're going to ring. So we can uncheck these boxes here. So now it says, okay, you can ring these devices. Obviously 0 seconds is not enough time to really answer a call. Up here is your total ring time for the user. So you can simply click distribute, right? And then it's gonna ring this one first and then this one second. Again, just like groups, right? These are sliders, so I can do it like this. I can change the order, click distribute again. Music on hold. Users can have their own hold music if you want them to. All right, you would first enable it, and then you would just upload a .mp3, .wave, .ogg under 1 megabyte recorded in mono, and then save changes. Customize call recording. When you enable it, it looks like this, and you need to decide which kind of calls you're going to record. Right, so inbound internal means coworker Bob is calling Aaron. Inbound external means customer Mary is calling Aaron. Right, whereas outbound internal, Aaron's calling coworker Bob. And then outbound external means Aaron's calling customer Mary. And then you click on Save Changes. And then the recordings are stored at recordings.virtualpbx.com. This uses your dash login. You can listen to the recordings, you can download them, you can delete them. Your storage amount will vary depending on your plan. And then there's overages. If you know, there's an overcharge if you go over your allotment. You want to talk to our account services team to verify how much storage you have and what the overcharge would be. And then here you got the option to put a user on Do Not Disturb, meaning calls directly to their extension will go right to voicemail. If they're in a queue in a group, they're not going to be offered calls from those sources. All right, voicemail boxes. All right, shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. Any user voicemail box, right, they're going to have a field filled out in the user column here. These other ones, these are that were manually created, which you can click up here at the top to start. Right, you give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. And then you would create the voicemail box. After that, you can click on the little wrench icon. Go over to advanced, go to greeting media. So here you can upload a greeting media file, right, for this voicemail box. Or you can select one that's already on the system. The temporary one will play if there's one selected. This will supersede the normal media file, right? So this is like the out of office or vacation voicemail message. And then when the person comes back, you would set this back to none, so their normal voicemail greeting plays instead. And then recipients, your user voicemail boxes already have one recipient built in, right? Because they have the email address used for login. You can add additional recipients to their voicemail boxes, as well as you do want to add one to these manually created voicemail boxes, so that if they get a voicemail, someone's notified and they can act on that voicemail. And you can add multiple people, right? So I could put in an email address here, I could click add and add another email address, click add again, etc. Once you've done those two things, right, so added a media file and added recipients, then you would click on already set up, saying this voicemail box is ready to go. And then you have the options here, attaching to voicemail, if you want to delete after notification, etc. Advanced routing. This is for most accounts, this is for direct inward system access. And what that is allows a cell phone user or a landline user to call into the system and then make an outbound call. And when they make that outbound call, it won't be their cell phone that shows up on the outbound caller ID, right? It'll be the main company number on their dashboard. All right, so you would then click on this, you would click enable, and it's going to automatically generate a PIN number. Now, you can then, at this point, you can make this a menu option under your virtual receptionist or any of your auto attendants, right? So like you can make it star when someone calls the main number, then they would be prompted to enter this PIN number, and then they would hear dial tone again, so they enter one area code and phone number to make their outbound call. I normally recommend just adding an extension number to it so that it's additional layer of potential protection, right? Because now someone would need to know the extension number and the PIN number to be able to make an outbound call. And again, that outbound caller ID is going to be on your dashboard, right underneath the caller ID at the top of the page. So whichever phone number you selected for the company caller ID number. Now, for new signups, you may not see advanced routing show up immediately. And that's just because this is a potential concern for fraud, right? If someone figured out your PIN number for DISA, they can log into your system and make outbound calls on your account, and you may not realize it right away. Right, depends on how close you're watching your account, but most people wouldn't notice until they got their next invoice and they had a lot of outbound call traffic. Next up, we have the call logs. All right, so this will show your call activity on the account. You've got a daily look at it. You can look at it for the whole week, as well as for the month, as well as a custom view. When you see the call, you can click on a call, and sometimes you get some further detail about where the call went. We had a lot of test calls on this account the other day for testing conferencing, actually. But here you can see this call, right, came in and then tried these various devices. Typically you want to see normal clearing because that tells you the call ended normally. Right, no answer just means the person didn't pick up. No route destination, this could be because the information for the phone number was incorrect, so the system didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know where to route the call to. Some other things you can see would be like recovery on time or expire, which would normally indicate some sort of network issue. Now you can download this file, it's a CSV, so you can sort things using like Excel or whatever spreadsheet program you use. This little fire hydrant icon, this allows you to report the call. Basically it creates an email and it has the technical details. I would ask that in the body of the email you tell support what happened. Like, you know, the phone didn't actually ring, or we didn't hear it ring, or I had bad audio, or what have you, just to give us an idea of what the issue is that you encounter on your experience on that call. All right, feature codes. I've already talked about a couple of these. These are dial pad shortcuts that allow VoIP phone users, for the most part, to make use of features of the Dash account. Right, these are published here. They're also published on the website, so you can go to under the support pages. There's two documents. There's the feature code document. There's also the phone commands cheat sheet PDF, which is just a one sheet, has a little description of what each of the features does. All right, so now we've been on the dashboard this entire time. I'm going to go next over to Acd Cues. Now, ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. It's a call center feature, right? So if you ever called like a bank, you know, any kind of 800 number, right, to talk to customer service, you have entered into a call queue at some point in your life. Now, clicking on Add a New Queue will create a new queue on the account. Bear in mind that Acd Cues, these are an add-on feature. It's either $15 or $30 per month, depending on your plan, for the standard queues, which these are what we're looking at right here. There's also Acd Cues Pro, which I believe start at $99 per month. You'd want to double check with our account services team to verify the pricing, and they can help you determine which queues is best for you as well. Now, when creating a queue, you give it a name, and then you can assign a phone number or an extension. I can either or, it can't be both. Then you have a queue routing strategy. Unfortunately, the pull down is not working here. One thing to keep in mind about for queues, users that you assign to queues can only make use of VoIP devices. No cell phones, no landlines. So routing strategy most idle means whoever's been waiting for the call the longest gets the next call that comes in. Right, under the standard queues, you also have ring all, right, so ring everybody at the same time. You have round robin, right, that will equalize out over time. You have least calls, which is least connected calls, right? So if Bob has spoken to 2 people and Mary's spoken to 5, the next call comes in and goes to Bob, right, under least calls. Then there's least offers, which is the combination of missed and connected calls. So in that scenario of 2 and 5, right, of 2 connected calls for Bob and 5 for Mary. Let's say you're under least offers, and Bob has been offered 20 calls and Mary's been offered 5 calls. Under least offered, Mary gets the next call, even though she's spoken to all 5 of her people. Now, in those last 2 scenarios, right, the least offers, least calls, let's say Dylan logs in a couple hours after Mary and Bob, right? He's at 0 for both, so he would get the next call coming in and would continue to get the next call that comes in if he's available until he matches one of the other two. Right, you have hold treatment, so you can upload your own file, right? .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono, and then you would click on save. Now, for Acd Cues Pro, you have more options in hold treatment. You can do things like announce their place in line, announce their expected wait time. You can have multiple media files play. So it's a lot more granular control. Queue timeout, measured in seconds. This is how much time people can wait on hold, right, for your inbound callers. The queue call limit, this is the number of people who can wait on hold. This is on top of the people who are already talking to your staff members. Right. Timeout immediately if empty. If you enable this, this means if you have no staff members logged into your queue and a call comes into the queue will treat that inbound caller as if they hit this 2000 second timeout. Right. Escalation queue, this means if your staff members are all busy, then the system will automatically roll anyone waiting on hold to a secondary queue. So that means you would have to pay for a second queue. And then you have the escalation call flow after timeout. So after this 2000 seconds, the system will send the calls to this voicemail box. Now, if I had an escalation queue, if the call started here in this queue and then went to a second queue, the system keeps track of this original timeout. Right? So since the call started here, even if the call's in a second or third queue, after 2000 seconds total, it's going to send them back to the original queue's escalation timeout. Now we have agent behavior. Recovery time, measured in seconds, after an agent is done with a call. If you have a number here, then the system will wait that number of seconds before it offers that agent a second call from this queue. Force away on reject or missed. That means if an agent misses a call, the system will automatically put them in away mode, and they have to turn themselves back into ready mode to be able to get calls. And then agent connect timeout, measured in seconds, is default is 20, typically plenty of time for a VoIP phone. And then you would click on create queue, or in this case, save changes. After creating your queues, you would click here on the members icon, right, little person with a headset. And then here you see all the people who are available to be in your queues, right? Your available staff members. If you click on manage members, now on the left, these are people available to add to queues. On the right, these are the people that are already in your queues or can be assigned to any of your queues, right? So if I wanted to, I could select Jose here and then move him over and add him as a member to my call center. All right. Now if I go back to queues, all right, you can add agents. Right, so I already have 7 people assigned, but I can add any of these other people over. So I can add Jose if I wanted to, for example. And then click on save. Notice that I went up to 8. Once you have agents assigned, then you can choose any of these agents to become managers, which basically means they can log people out in and out of the queue. Now, for your staff members, right, they would come up to the top, they would select Acd Cues, they would click on Begin Session, and then you see here I'm logged into this queue, and I'm red, meaning I'm marked away, so I can't actually answer a call at this point. The system would not even offer me a call. Right, now I can change my status by marking myself as ready, and then I'll turn green. Right. If I'm on an inbound call, my little icon here will turn blue. If I'm on an outbound call, it will turn yellow. And if I'm on recovery time, I turn gold. Up here, you have a little phone icon. This is where your users select which of their VoIP devices they're receiving calls on. Right, so that way the system would only ring that device from the queue. Then your staff members, like when they go to lunch, right, they would mark themselves as away, and then the end of their day, just end their session. For Acd Cues Pro, there's another section here for performance, right? So you can compare agents or several agents directly in terms of like their call stats, what have you. Also, Acd Cues Pro, they allow managers to eavesdrop on a call, whisper to the agent on the call, as well as barge into a call. Next up, we have Blacklists. Blacklist is available on all accounts. This allows you to block calls based on inbound caller ID. Right, so you would click on Edit Blacklists, and then you would either click Add to create a new list, or select an existing list. And then you give it a name. If you turn on Block Anonymous, that means if you get invalid caller ID into the system, or someone who blocks your caller ID on purpose, the system will just block them from reaching your account. Right? They get busy tone. Then, otherwise, you click Add Number, and then you put +1 area code and phone number for the phone numbers you want to block. And then you click Add and continue doing that until you add all the phone numbers you want. Then you would click on Save. You go back to Settings. And then you want to make sure the lists or lists that you want to use are over here to the right, under Selected. So we can do that. We can do this one, for example. Then you click Update. So once they're over on Selected and I've clicked Update, now these lists are active. So any phone number on these two lists, when they try to call any of my phone numbers on my account, they're going to get a busy tone. Right? That could be just because it's a robodialer, or it's some kid who keeps prank calling our staff members, whatever. Right. Dynamic caller ID, this is available on some plans and not others, so plan specific feature. What this does is allow you to create rules to change your outbound caller ID. Right, so this first one here is I based it off of feature code. So my VoIP phone users, and this is for VoIP phone users, I should point that out. But basically they would hit on their phone, they dial *71, and then the phone number they're going to reach out to, and the system will automatically change my outbound caller ID to this phone number. Now this phone number needs to be on my account, right? Otherwise it won't be an option to select. And then I would just click on Save Changes. The other rule type that you can do is based on area code. Right, when I have up here, so now it's whenever staff member picks up a VoIP phone, dials a 408 phone number, this phone number shows up as the outbound caller ID. Faxes, this is the Fax Monitor, so you can see the status of faxes on the account. Right, so you can choose a particular person's voicemail or fax box for inbound. Right, you can go to someone's outbound fax box. You can also see the email to fax logs. If you have an entry here, there's usually a little eyeball icon to the far right. If you click on that, it will give you some more information about the error that the person encountered. Next up, we have the monitor. This is another plan-specific feature, but basically it lets you to see what everyone's doing, right? In terms of, are they available? Are they on calls? You can see the number of active calls, as well as calls that are put in parking spots, as well as the parking spot numbers. You have options to see who's available versus who's busy. etc. Number manager. This just takes you to your numbers page again. It just puts you on your spare numbers, so you can delete numbers or you can buy or port numbers. The recording manager, this takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. You log in to view your recordings. I'm going to skip down here to voicemails. This is the voicemail manager. So you can see the voicemails on the account, right? So you can choose a person's voicemail box to see if they have voicemail. If they do, you can see the date and the time, where the call came from, the phone number they dialed, the duration. You can listen to it, download it, etc. If you put a check mark here, then right, you can mark it as deleted or listened, etc. This is your sorting type. So if you had a lot of voicemails, you could sort by just the new ones, for example. And then you also have the option here to move it to a different voicemail box because it's to the wrong person. All right. Reports, this is for advanced reporting. This is also a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create your own reports based off of the call logs, essentially. You can see how calls come into your users, like especially like the calls to a group, right? You can see for how long it was offered to the users. You can see if a call spoke to someone, then transferred to someone else, that sort of thing. Again, if you're interested in that, we do have a demo. Our marketing team put one together on our YouTube channel. So I do recommend taking a look at that to get a better idea of what the reports are like, because they're not actually active on this account. Webhooks, this is, again, on specific plans. This allows you to link Dash to other software. Usually with something like Zapier, for example. To see samples of some of the things we've done, you can go to developer.virtualpbx.com. We have examples of code of what we have done linking Dash to other software like Slack, for example, among many other things. If you're interested in that, you're going to want to talk to our sales team. They actually have additional information about what is necessary for that. And then lastly, we have the user portal, which I have referred to a couple times. Now, the user portal is specific to your user, right? So you can only get to your user portal. As an admin, though, you can get to everything that's in the user's portal just via different tools, right? So I'm on my user. This is my voicemail tab. I can see which ones are new, which ones I've listened to, the date, the time, phone number they came from, who to, the duration. I can listen to it. I can download it. If I select something here, I can choose listened, and it should update to just the ones that were listened. Interesting. I may not have enough for it to actually need this. No? Oh, it allows you to select all of them. Sorry. Been a while. Also, you can mark messages as new, listened, or deleted. Next up, you've got call history. Right, so this shows your calls that you have made to your user or from your user. You can also change the date range here to expand it. Faxes, if the user has a fax box, you can look at their fax history. The contact list, right, this is your Dash contact list. So this is all the users, the groups, the auto attendants, etc. A user by themselves, they can't add to this, right? So your sales staff wouldn't be able to add their client list to this. This is just internally within your account. Conference tab. We're going to start over here on the far right. So up here, you can change. This is where the users can change their PIN numbers, right? So their moderator PIN or their participant PIN numbers. And then down below, they can choose if people are coming in muted or deafened. as well as do you want to play entry and exit tones. Over here, right, I can add or I can invite people to a conference, right? I can lock a conference, I can mute everybody, I can unmute everybody, I can end the conference. When you're actually within a conference, on this page, you can mute a specific person, you can kick a specific person as well. And then under settings and devices, right, this is where the users can turn on their own call forwarding and enter their phone number and see their status, right? But if they're making use of call forwarding, they'd want to click on save. And that is everything. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to the dashboard. And make sure it loads properly. All right, so yeah, that is Dash. Do apologize that this one ran a bit longer than normal. I have to check my net connection here to find out what's going on. But we will be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. This has been recorded, so you can come back and view this at any time on our YouTube channel, as well as our previous live streams for training. And as I said, there's also that demo for the advanced reporting that you might want to check out. But beyond that, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.